So Trev ran a 21 kilometer half marathon that I gifted him, and he ran it with a shark on his head. And he hasn't. Was that like your longest distance ever? The 21K?
Maybe. I ran an 18K cross country like obstacle course thing when
Yeah.
I was, I think, 32, and then that was 9 years ago. So I haven't done any, like, I've done some 10Ks, a bunch of 10Ks, and I've done a couple 15, but never anything as long as 21. I don't think.
So it's like running is one of my greatest mental hacks. Like me, what I do usually when I run, especially long distance, I listen to brainwash type of content. Do you feel you've got like any added mental strength after that? Like, do you feel any difference? What lessons have you learned from that little run?
What lessons have I learned? That's a fair question. My wife was mad because when she did a 21K, she spent like 3 months training up to it.
Yeah.
And it was just, you went, "Hey, Trev, I've got this ticket that my brother doesn't want. Do you want it?"
Yeah.
And I went, "Eh," and ran. And she's like, "You didn't need any training. You did a better time." I also ran faster than she did. Her 21K was two and a half, right? It was like 2:33 or something. And so faster than her, no training. And I was like, I rode my bike there and back also. So I had a 15K, which is a short little bike ride, a 15K bike ride there and back with the shark on my head because I didn't have any place else to put it.
Okay, well, first explain the shark thing. Like, where does the idea come from? Because sometimes I see crazy people wearing outfits when they do these things, and I kind of don't understand them. I'm like, dude, so what's the logic behind that?
So when I moved to Montreal, I joined a company called Unito, which is a work kind
Yeah.
of synchronization tool, work task synchronization tool. And they ran every week up and down Montreal from downtown Montreal. And in the middle of winter, there, like, it was legit. There'd be snow and crap going on, and we'd go run.
Yep. Yep.
And so I bought a Cthulhu hat with a whole like tentacle to hang off the front to run in, and then we'd go up the mountain and back down. I'd have all this ice kind of caked onto the front of my Cthulhu mask. But it kept my face warm. I was fine with it. Everybody else hated it. And when we were getting ready to do the 10K as a company, the CEO said, "You are forbidden from wearing your Cthulhu mask." And I don't know why, but my mother had sent me that shark. It's actually a costume for a 2-year-old. 'Cause it's like it's got armholes for a little 2-year-old. And so my mom had sent me that the week before, and I went, "You know what? I'm not allowed to wear the octopus, but he didn't say I couldn't wear a shark." And so that was in 20, I think maybe 17, 2016. It was in 2016. And so then I just, whenever I run the 10K, I wear that shark.
Just when it cannot get weirder. That's why I like you, man. You're like such a weird person, and you don't like make workarounds around like your personality. So what did you learn out of that? Like, do you think it can be a good mental hack? Because me, if like a founder, the normal, I don't know, Silicon Valley founder would ask me stuff, and like, what's your top 5 hacks? I cannot really give him business hacks that would be that useful to him, but I can talk to him about relationships. I can talk to him about doing hard shit like that. I can talk to him about doing retreats, for example, and biohacks to actually add to their existing business mental model. So what well, do you think it can be a good hack? Like, let's say that next steps, your buddy Charles buys you like a marathon. Do you think that would add more tools to your existing mindset?
So I do think anybody who runs knows eventually you will bonk.
Yep.
And I did a better job this time managing energy levels than I have before. So I had granola bars in my pocket, and at the halfway point in the run, they give you energy goop, which,
Oh
by
shit.
the
Watch
way,
out.
that's
Watch out for
disgusting.
that. Yeah. And it will
Um,
fuck up your stomach mostly if you're not used to
uh,
it.
okay, well, I drink 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day, so it didn't particularly screw up my stomach. That said, it was revolting. But like that, but still at like kilometer 18, I was just like, I'm done. Like, give up. And having to say, okay, one, look, you're 3 kilometers from the end. Sack up, princess. but two, getting past the moment where you're like, I can't go any further. That is in its core what an entrepreneur must do.
Right, right, right. No, it's so hard that point. Also, I like the public accountability of it, like I called you on LinkedIn for that, and it's like, oh, you can't disappoint. Yesterday, so first, okay, what you just mentioned about the non-training part of it, me, I like it that way. Who's gonna fucking spend 1 hour per day for God knows how long training? Like, we don't have fucking time as entrepreneurs. Me, I've been hacking my way through it since forever. Same for the Ironman training, right? I don't have 2 hours or three to spend training every day. So I've been hacking it through hits, through intelligent nutrition and so forth, and just piecing trainings throughout my schedule. So good for you on that. And also, I like the challenge of someone just like sticking up in your face and just like, okay, no, it's bought. You don't have any more excuses. And thank God that you didn't have as much excuses as my beloved brother. But glad that you accepted it. And I think it's one of the best scenarios to just have it like, okay, it's there, it's in 1 week. I think anyone can do a half marathon. I think that you could also do a marathon, just that it would be more painful. I wouldn't recommend that you do a 16K a couple of days before a marathon, right? That was a cool move from a mental level, but from a physical level, that 16K like busted your knees and so
It
forth.
did.
And
I
if you
wanted to do it on Monday, and then my wife was like, "Well, we can't do it on Monday. We can do it on Thursday." And I was like, "Then
right,
I guess I'll do it on Thursday."
yeah, and lots of recovery in between, and you could like, we could talk about some therapies that you could do, like if you're gonna do that, or simply run on a softer surface like grass, for example. It also makes it
Yeah.
harder for some of your muscle. But what the next thing I have to say basically is that yesterday I started training for my 10K swim, which is in Cancun, which is in 3 weeks, right? And I found myself in a pool against a brown whale, uh, which is a big fat Mexican swimming next to me. And they always keep up, these, I'm not sure like how or why, but like this guy, he has like 30% body fat, big belly, and he still kept up with me for 1 hour 30. We did 2.5 kilometers together. Um, and I wanted to bump him at the end, and he was like unsure. I think he was in competing mode, which is cool, right? But at the beginning, yeah, I haven't swum in like 6 or 12 months. And I was like, shit, yeah, like I'm gonna keep up with it. And the point I want to bring is kind of ego. I think ego, like, it can bring you to nice places. I think it can bring you to surpass yourself. But like, yeah, minute 10, dude, like I was out of breath. And swimming is like somewhat of torture, right? I'm a bit claustrophobic, and we were like two with this fat guy in one micro lane. It wasn't like super deep as well. So like at minute 10, I was like, man, this is stressful, And when the stress kicks in, you start breathing like shit and so forth, which is basically demon. So I'm having this 10 kilometers swim like soon enough, but it's always like these major mental downloads that you get. In that case, that I didn't give up after 10 minutes. I didn't stop swimming, right? And funnily enough, that's because of ego. So I see a lot of people like talking shit about ego, but I think that ego is one of the greatest gifts out there to actually adopt mental models. What do you think about that?
So ego is interesting. I have spent what, probably 38 years of my 41 having to grapple with the fact that because I'm 3 standard deviations out on IQ, it is really easy to be an arrogant a-hole all the time and be like, well, I'm right because I'm smarter than you. And one, no, that's not true, although it's easy to convince yourself that is. Um, I would say 20-year-old Trevor leaned into his ego and his arrogance and said, because I'm likely to be right, everyone should do what I say. And 41-year-old Trevor grapples with the fact that one, even if I'm right about something, doesn't mean I'm the only right, and people should be allowed to and encouraged to find and solve their problems on their own. And two, when you're right, it pays you very little to strut around and point out how right you were
Right.
to everybody.
Yeah.
And so ego is, if you bind your ego up in being better, being faster, stronger, whatever, it can drive you in a way that, like, the strongest emotions to make you change tend to be ones that are mixed blessings, right? Ego can drive you to change. Spite can drive you to change. Anger can drive you to change. Also, love and duty and responsibility can drive you to change too. But like it, comfort is never what drives you to change, right? Being
Yeah.
happy with everything is not when you're going to change what's around you. And so ego is a lash that you can whip yourself and others with to make things different. So you can also make yourself extremely unpleasant when you do.
Right. It's just that I've been through the ego-less journey lately in the last couple of years, more heart-centered and so forth. And these long ass retreats, I went to another of these a couple of weeks ago, and they're all about like not having ego, kind of. So that's the other end of the spectrum. But I think that to do good, you actually need ego, um, to evolve. Anyway, that's an interesting topic. What about like your next steps in terms of endurance events? Like, do you think you'll do a 30? Do you do a 40? Like, do you think this is an upgrade for you? Like a guy that's very cerebral and may not be looking at other aspects of life like biohacking or running these hard events. Do you think these other fields, these other areas, do you think they can bring value to your business self?
I don't know. So one thing that people talk about they find of benefit when you do an endurance event is at some point you can't listen to music or audiobooks anymore. Your brain's not there. You've moved past the point where you're taking that information in and you suddenly you just are, right? You've gotten past every other level of your
Depends
brain and
if
you're just
Goggins
slogging
is
through.
screaming at you. Um, he makes it pretty goddamn clear. That's what I like about Goggins. He's kind of a simpleton. Um, and the things that he says are very simplistic, even when you're in great pains. And it's like a wake up call. Because yes, I do agree that sometimes it's kind of hard to assimilate new information if you're in high levels of pain and you're really in this primalistic state. But that's why I listen to these Goggins stay hard motherfucker videos.
In my experience, which is not as extensive as yours in this way, when you reach when you've gotten past that, your body says stop, and you go no, and you keep going. You don't. Your head empties out. All you can do now is exist in this moment as you push. And for some people, it can be really hard to get to where the head's quiet, where the brain isn't pushing at you. In my
Yep.
case, I joke with my wife. Years ago, I learned how to meditate back when I was in high school. And one of the first things you do to meditate is reach empty mind. And I reached that point and then I just never filled my mind up again. I've been in empty mind for 25 years, is the joke I tell my wife. Uh,
Hmm.
and so for me, it's not particularly hard to reach that quiet place. I can just choose to do it. Uh,
That's
I know
impressive.
it's I know that's strange. It pisses my wife off something fierce, and because she does meditate and has to put tremendous effort into quieting her mind down. Whereas when she says, "Hey Trevor, what are you thinking?" and I say nothing, that's not me being evasive. That's usually just true.
My wife also asked me that, and yeah, it's like when I look at blank stare. Well, except moments that I'm like genuinely stressed, which don't happen often. It's like me thinking about nothingness. Yeah, and yeah, it depends on the time, the place and time. Like moments in which like my business has been burning. When I would stare from a distance, it would probably being somewhat anxious moments, like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? but that never really happened often. I think the brain is kind of, yeah, seasonal as well. Well, you had a very long season of you being able to shut down. I think I'm in one of those seasons nowadays, but not having any voice when I meditate is yeah, it's quite hard. Um, yeah, we all have different brains, different circuitry, and in uh, tough physical events, yes, sometimes I do reach a point in which I'm meditating. So yesterday in the pool, it took probably like a good 45 minutes of me to just like letting the body do its thing. Because most of the time and in most scenarios, you just let the body or the brain do its thing. You know, you don't want to intervene and have the brain stress out that, oh shit, what if that brain is such a useless piece of shit most of the time. It's always, yeah, in a marathon is like, oh, where's the next sign that will say like what kilometer am I at, you know? No,
Yeah.
that is total uselessness. Just keep on running, you know, just keep on running, and you don't even need to look at the finish line. You all you need to do is kind of meditate while running, and these are my best runs, you know, when I go to the park and I just listen to some nice music. I've been trying a technique lately, which is looking at nature. You know, I'm running on the track here, and I just look at trees from a distance and the mountains and the clouds. I don't even need to look at what's in front of me because it's a track, you know, so there won't be any holes or anything. And last time I went from a 10K, I probably meditated at least, actually, yeah, I did a 20 and a 30K also, and I meditated probably 80% of the time, which is pretty fun, right? That means like 80% of the run, it's like zero pain. And the remaining 20 is like probably 10% pain. Well, I've been doing some marathons on the 150% pain, which is like gut distress and like, yeah, you know, like when your gut hurts, it's like, yeah, it's distress. Your mind thinks you're gonna die, you're gonna shit yourself, which I actually did also in Serbia, for the record. But yeah, I think that it's a good way to hardwire yourself and to teach your brain to not to behave, you know, in some situations. Well, nowadays I have less employees, so like less drama. Not sure if we could make like a more money, more problem, or less employees, less drama type of expression. But I think it's an essential tool to have in your toolbox to kind of evolve as an entrepreneur. I guess, yeah, that's pretty much the episode today, because I want to talk about the AI stuff, but we can leave that for the next one. But yeah, who knows, man? Like, I guess the next step is you doing a 30K, a trail 30K. Trail are really fun.
I don't like trail running because I have such crap balance, and it's easy for me to fall on my face. Even when we would run
Right,
up Mont Royal, which is barely a trail, I would not infrequently on the run down end up face planting.
right. Mahoya is tough also. It's pretty steep. A trail, well, there's various flat-ish trail, but what's cool about trails is that it's also more fun for the brain. It's more natural because like in the end, we're just like monkeys running after a prey or something. That's like how the brain interprets what you do. And then you find food, you know, like, which is you munching on that trail bar. But there's more presence, there's better oxygen. Um, you know, like some people like urbanism. I don't. I love trees, you know, and green and fresh oxygen. So they're more fun. These trails, and obviously you need to have trail shoes. These are good shoes. And then yes, you need to go slower. I can remember Spartan race in which like going downhill, yeah, like my ankle, it rolled twice in like 10 minutes, and the second time I thought it was broken. So I thought, okay, here goes my race after like 10 kilometers, because I was just like going all out, you know, like on my downhills, which was really dumb. But yeah, the body's resilient as well. But and trails, they're way more fun than running on pavement. Plus, you don't destroy your knees, right?
That's fair. That's fair. I did break my left big toe on the first kilometer of a Spartan race in Krakow a long, long time ago, and then ran the whole rest of the race. I didn't even know I'd broken it.
They
Um,
have Spartan race
so,
in Poland?
well, it's called the Run Mageddon, but it's the same idea. It
Huh.
is like the first 2 kilometers were run through a stream, and then we had to go like, I mean, at one point we ran through fire, or we had to swim through two dumpsters full of ice water.
Yeah,
The end of it was they were hanging actual live electrical wires, and
right.
you had to run through the electrical wires. Like it was messed up, man.
Yeah. Like these brands, they're kind of famous for like being money holes. Um, Spartan Race founder Joe Senna, which I read all of his books. He's quite public about, yeah, the company breaking even and not making a profit. Events business, they really much suck as well. Like during COVID, yeah, it was so hard. Um, so I'm not sure if we should talk about Spartan Race, but we should certainly talk for these last 3 minutes about the Ironman Group, which is probably one of the most expensive brands in the world. Um, why? And what's the difference with Spartan Race? Spartan Race, yeah, it's like Spartan type of brands, like really men and so forth. But Ironman Group, they acquired like also some of the best ultra racing brands in the world last year. Ultra Mont Blanc, which is like the most famous ultra race in the world, one of the toughest as well. I interviewed a crazy guy. I need to send you that podcast. HK, I think was his name. He did that one in like a 10-day 300-kilometer race. You really need to listen to that one. But anyway, Ironman Group, it's prestigious and it's like boldness. For example, me, every time I would see an Ironman logo when I was younger, or even before I was an Ironman myself, it signifies prestige, right? A bunch of humans have Ironman tattoos on them. I would say
Yep.
like at least 20% of Ironmans, they have it as a logo. So imagine how much that is worth, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
So like I
I
think their
know I
plan
know
is not
somebody
like
else who does
cash flow.
Ironmans. I know somebody else who does Ironmans regularly. I think he does have an Iron Man tattoo on him.
Yeah. So imagine the brand of that. That's a fucking brand, you know? That's like
Yeah.
worth something and you have it on you and you promote it all the time. Um, and like vice versa. I don't think there's a lot of Spartan tattoos out there, but I'm estimating that yeah, this Iron Man brand is probably worth at least like 2 to 3 billion.
Could well be.
Which is crazy, right? But it's not cash flow companies. I mean, they do like money through partnerships and so forth. It's a shitty company to run. Well, it must be nice to just be CEO of Ironman. It's really prestigious, but very cool brand. What do you have to close off this podcast? Because I need to go take a pee.
What do I had? So I will definitely run another 21K. I'm not sure if I'll do a 30 or a full marathon. Um, I think it is useful to an entrepreneur to consider, right? What is your limit and how do you get past it? It
Right.
doesn't have to be a 5K or a 21K or a 300K. It doesn't have to be a physical race. I think every entrepreneur needs to be comfortable with finding their limit and then figuring out how to go further.